Good morning, everybody. Welcome to a Blue Friday edition of Hawk Blogger Mornings. I am Brian Nemhauser. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Hawk Blogger, and it is a Blue Friday. Friday before the game, second game, I should say, of the Seahawks preseason will begin tomorrow afternoon, 4 o'clock Pacific time. We will have a watch party. We will have fun. I may even have a little announcement for y'all. We'll see if I can get it done in time, but trying to get you guys a special deal that I think you'll like. We'll see if it works out, but that is something that we'll just have to wait and see. But today I've got so much to cover with all of you, and can't wait to get into it. Tons of news to go over, which I'm going to hit up first. And then I will end up eventually talking about the 53-man roster projection and some changes from where we were last week. I will go over what those changes are and some, I think, meaningful movement around the roster, up and down. Happy to be here with all of you. Happy to see everybody in chat. Such an awesome crew here already. The chat was buzzing even before the show started. So I want to say good morning to Isaac. Good morning to Old School Seahawk. Good morning to William Awesome Co. Good morning to Boris. Good morning to Falcon 47. Let's see. Joey Iverson's here. Good morning to you. Good morning to John Betzig, Christian Fuerte, Mike H, Hawks fan Matt Man, Hijack 101, Trevor Stewenberg, Ryan Cleveland, Kane Muss. Hopefully it's Muss. Maybe it's Moose. I don't know. So just good morning to everybody. Welcome to have you here. And welcome to have you here is not really something you say, but welcome. Great to have you here. And tons to talk through. We're going to start the show with who did it better. This is an important, hard-hitting story that I've been working on for a while. And want to get a feel from you guys. Who do you think did it better? We're going to start out here with your offensive coordinator.
You like it. So you won't strike it. I took it and I mic'd it. Oh! And now that it's done, will you please add how the G just done it with E? Just imagine the crowd screaming, a girl screaming, just to get a picture of me and my B-O-Y-Z from the H-O-O-D. S-E-A, down with me. Stronger, I'm crazy. Turn the page and see, I'm not a son of a gun. I'm engaged in nothing anymore than this shot because it's hidden. It's so cool. You can keep all this right here. I'm coming off raw into your speaker, making the suckers on the street feel weaker. Most I know not to deal with me. You're a zombie. Tell me you can't.
All right, so that's number one, your offensive coordinator. Next, we're going to go with number two, your first-round draft pick.
All black, tinted up, came with red key. Shout out to the team, repping blue and green. Shout out to the bros, Leo, Hank, and Jay Reed. Shout out to the team, y'all know who it be. 21 years old, money tall like yeah, I mean. And I'm a king, and I'm a gun. Now I swear to God, man, I do this shit for fun. From the 214, you already know. Boys on go, all we boys drove. Cannon, paint, riding, blank. Yo, turn up. Yo, we in this hoe. Don't give a fuck. And we on go. My only goal is to win the Super Bowl. And I'm with my bro. And I'm with my...
I don't know about you guys. I think Big Murph might have taken that one between the two of them. Loved. I mean, gotta say, can you imagine Shane Waldron getting up there and having fun like Ryan Grubb just did? I mean, like, I already was a huge fan of that hire. Can't say this does anything to hurt that. I mean, the guy, he's legit. He is legit. And Seahawks fans are very fortunate to have him here. I think the team loved it. But Byron, man, What can't this guy do? I mean, he is looking like a new icon, ready to burst on the scene, and great to see that the Seahawks are having fun. I mean, I hope they make this Tennessee thing a annual trip. Obviously, hard to do that if you're playing them during the season, but yeah, it might be a while before that happens. So who knows? Who knows? Anyway, fun stuff from those guys. Let's go through some other news of the day. There was talk about Mike Garofalo, by the way, was on Puck show. Jason Puckett, Puck Sports, did an interview with Mike Garofalo. He's on there regularly and mentioned that Geno Smith's crew approached the team about an extension. Doesn't sound like anything is imminent, and things, did not progress. Uh, and then, if you didn't see it, I'll share this as well. Geno Smith's Instagram story got some attention. Let me put this up here for you all to see. I'll make it bigger for you. So Geno Smith Instagram story yesterday, the last dance, and follows up with "I'm gone, I'm gone, I'm gone." So obviously people are reading into what that means. I'm not going to jump to any conclusions here that this is anything more than, it could be a million different things that he was referring to, but it certainly is not the most promising message to post. I was curious kind of when where people were as Seahawks fans about this Geno Smith extension concept. And so I posted a poll just this morning, 7:30 a.m., just a half an hour ago, saying, would you be happy if the Seahawks extended Geno Smith before the season began? And I think if you guys have been watching me long enough, you know my answer. I'm like, yes, I think they should. I think they're about to have to pay a lot more money for him after the season pops off. But I was curious, like, where's the fan base? And as of 8:07 a.m. on Blue Friday, 57% of Seahawks fans said that they would be happy if the Seahawks extended him now. And I see a question from Tamara, why would they extend him now? Well, here's the thing. Geno Smith's value right now is, if you think his value now is lower than what it's going to be after the season, you would be wise to extend him this year, because next year's salary cap hit is larger. It's still doable, but it's larger. And by extending him now, you could secure the position. He's just, I mean, quarterbacks playing at 37, 38 is very normal at this point. Matt Stafford's going to be 37. Obviously, Aaron Rodgers is in his 40s. Kirk Cousins is pushing that. So there's nothing age-wise that would keep you from extending Geno Smith. And there's not another option that's clearly stepping forward behind him. So you can get your best possible price by extending him right now. That would be the reason. Sorry, got stuck reading chat. Sometimes my brain can't read chat, talk, and read what's on my screen at the same time. In any event, so 57.2% of people in the poll say yes, they would be happy if they extended Geno Smith before the season. That's about 600 people have voted. And what I read you some of the comments. Here's some of them. Let's see how Geno performs in a real game with the new coaching and scheme, especially against the Rams and Niners. I'm tired of losing to these two teams. Well, looking at his Instagram today, it doesn't seem likely for an extension to happen. All depends on the numbers and the term. Let's see. Certainly not. We don't even know how well he plays with the new coaching staff. There were long stretches last season with Geno of complete offensive ineptitude. Mariners asks if he gets a new extension, he needs to earn it this season, in my opinion. Here's one. Continues to be something that's out there. Geno is a fantastic backup quarterback, but that's it. What's the rush? I know I'll report sure he looks good, but what if it doesn't translate to the regular season? What if he suffers a serious injury? So you see, various opinions. And for me, it's a pretty straightforward yes. But for a lot of folks, it's not. And this continues to be a story that for me, I just see very differently than I think that the average fan. I think Geno is one of the best quarterbacks in football and has not necessarily had the offensive coordinator, the offensive line, the supporting cast around him to help him achieve that. I think he's absolutely got things to work on. I'm not blind to those things. He absolutely needs to be able to step up and beat a team like the 49ers. But, this notion that how does he play against the Rams? That's actually such a misnomer. And I did a show on how does Geno play in big games. And he actually is better in big games than most people give him credit for. As far as versus the Rams, just last season, Geno went, let's see, where was it? He in LA was 22-34 for 233 yards, 1 touchdown, no interceptions. That's while being hurt. And in the previous season, Geno Smith against the Rams threw for 367 yards and 3 touchdowns. So I don't know if he needs to prove that he can play against the Rams. He's proven that he can play against the Rams. So any event, again, I see that differently, but it is still something to be aware of where things are. All right, let's keep going through news of the day. Let's start with Seahawks-centric news first, and then we'll kind of go from there. Christian Haynes, I think the biggest news coming out of camp yesterday was that in the second practice with the Titans, Christian Haynes was the starting right guard. And you might say, well, what's the big deal? What's the big deal? He's played with the ones a few times in camp. Well, that was when he was playing left guard, and that was specifically because Laken Tomlinson was taking a vet day. That's not really challenging for a starting spot. What happened yesterday was he was the starter ahead of Anthony Bradford. That is big news. That has not happened yet in camp. That has not happened a single time in camp until yesterday. So this is, I think, momentous. Now, whether it ends up being enough to that he pushes through and gets that starting spot, it remains to be seen. But I mean, if you watched the Big Rays Rewind with me on Wednesday when we went through tape and Ray showed a number of plays with Christian Haynes and how he finished and how he pushed and just the effort he played with, that's not lost on the coaches. I mean, if Ray is seeing that, I guarantee you the coaches are seeing that. And that's translating to who's getting reps with the ones. And so if, when we started the preseason, actually, when we started training camp, Jeff Simmons and I would talk about what would be the biggest, best possible thing to happen in training camp. What would be the best harbinger of good news. And it would be Christian Haynes winning the starting right guard job. And I'll tell you, the first week and a half, it didn't look likely. He seemed like a decent but developmental player. He was not making a big push, no pun intended, to be that starting guard, but he has really accelerated and he's played well. And in fact, I thought the best camp practice he had to that point was when he did start at left guard. He seemed to do really well at that spot. And he's been doing well in 1v1s. I think he's gaining confidence. He's going against Byron Murphy a lot. And then in the game, I thought he did quite well. So now you're in a situation where you have the potential outcome for your first round pick in Byron Murphy. By all accounts, looks like he is going to at least meet the expectations of a player drafted at the position that he was picked in the first round. And likely, I think it's likely at this point, he's going to exceed the value of the 16th overall pick. Now you got your third round pick, who's looking increasingly like he's the player you were hoping he would be, which is a guy that was worthy of a second round pick, maybe one of the better guards in the draft, and someone who can establish a young, intense, physical leader on this offensive line for years to come. So I think that was very big news that Christian Haynes was getting starting reps at right guard. Mike McDonald confirmed yesterday, is like, hey, it's a competition and that's not done yet. So great to see that. Other news coming out yesterday, Seahawks specific. It was reported that Pharaoh Brown went down with an injury. It was originally reported, I think, as a knee. He was carted off the field, but in the Mike McDonald press conference, he said it might have been an ankle, and he didn't ring any alarm bells that it was like a season-ending kind of thing. We don't know. We'll see what comes of it. Possible he just hadn't heard the details yet. But Pharaoh Brown going down is meaningful and something we'll definitely keep monitoring. He is a powerful blocking tight end that really gives you something special in the run game, and losing him would be a big deal. There's no sugarcoating it, but as of now, we don't know, and there's not a clear indication that this is going to be super serious. I'll just remind people, like Jordan Addison was carted off the field a couple days ago. It's not that serious. So I don't think someone being carted off the field automatically means that it's a huge injury, but something to monitor and something that was newsworthy coming out of yesterday. Two more things that were Seahawks specific from a news perspective. George Halani got the bulk of second string reps at running back. Now, this happened for a couple of reasons. I don't think he's ahead of Zach Charbonnet. Zach Charbonnet was held out with some back spasms or back stiffness, so I don't think that's all that serious or something to worry about, and they took some time there. But George Halani was ahead of Kenny McIntosh. Now, there was a report that Kenny McIntosh did get reps with the ones in a 2-minute drill. So I don't think this is such a thing as it's already clear that George Halani is ahead of Kenny McIntosh forever in the depth chart. But I've been telling you guys this for weeks now. I don't think Kenny McIntosh has impressed that much. I think George Halani does everything better than Kenny McIntosh. I think he pass blocks better. I think he runs between the tackles better. I think he runs outside better. Maybe Kenny McIntosh is a better receiver. I think that's to be determined, but I just think George Halani is a better player. So I think this is how it's going to go. But for now, it's just newsworthy that Halani is getting those reps ahead of McIntosh. So that'll come up when we talk about the 53-man roster projection here in a bit. Last bit of Seahawks news specific to the Seahawks. Laken Tomlinson, people were losing their minds about Jeffrey Simmons tossing Laken Tomlinson to the side in 1v1s. And it was a great rep for Jeffrey Simmons. No doubt about it. I'll just say this, like Seahawks fans reactions in general to 1v1 video reps, whether it's receivers, backs. I've seen people criticize Tyrell Dodson for not being able to cover, you know, Tajay Spears out of like weird stuff to me. Like none of that matters. It really just doesn't. The Laken Tomlinson thing, yeah, was not a good rep. Jeffrey Simmons is one of the best defensive tackles in football. He will ragdoll a guard when, 1v1 against him sometimes. They didn't show the next rep. I wouldn't be surprised if Laken did better on that rep. Guys get beat, then they tend to recover. The other thing to be aware of is the chances that the Seahawks would design a blocking scheme that would allow Laken Tomlinson to be isolated on any one, Jeffrey Simmons to be isolated on any one guard is just unlikely. That's just not the way you develop a blocking scheme against a player like Jeffrey Simmons to make sure that he's covered. I mean, you wouldn't leave Aaron Donald singled up, and I'm not saying Jeffrey Simmons is Aaron Donald, but he is an elite defensive tackle. So I think I see people saying, oh, Christian Haynes should start at left guard and Anthony Bradford should start at right guard. I mean, I'm not opposed to seeing if Anthony Bradford can take some steps, but if you think that was a bad rep, you guys haven't seen Anthony Bradford last year enough and gone back and seen his reps as a pass protector. And you haven't seen the fact that during this training camp, he has not made significant strides in that pass protection and still does get beat pretty regularly, at least a couple times a practice in a pass rush situation. So Laken Tomlinson is a very serviceable guard. I don't think he's the best guard in the world. I'm not saying he's necessarily going to recapture his Pro Bowl form from a couple years ago, but people are way overblowing that single rep. Laken Tomlinson is a fine starting guard. He will be your starting left guard. And I think the bigger question is who's your starting right guard? And I think there's reason to believe Christian Haynes would be a better option for the Seahawks than Anthony Bradford, but he's got to earn it. So that is my take on the Laken Tomlinson piece that was out there. Three more things, and then I've got some new members to welcome because I saw them come and I want to get through these, and then I'll get to that. Couple things that are related to the Seahawks, but not directly. First, Matt Milano has a torn biceps, and or torn bicep, I think is probably the right way to say that. He is going to be out at least until December, it sounds like. And so that means he will not be available when the Seahawks play the Bills. I think they play them in October. Let me double check. But I know that I already looked at this, and I know that he will not be available. So yeah, they play in October, right before Halloween. So Matt Milano will not be available for the Seahawks game. Next, Justin Simmons, the safety from the Broncos, has signed a deal with the Falcons. So the Falcons, in maybe not consecutive days, maybe it was, but certainly this week, have made a big trade for a pass rusher in Matthew Judon, and a veteran pass rusher, and then a veteran safety in Justin Simmons. So this, for what it's worth, this to me tends to be the thing that a lot of fans freak out about. They're like, oh my God, the Falcons, look what they're doing. I think they certainly got better. I don't doubt that. But you're talking about two guys in their 30s who have either been injured or declining. And fans tend to really fixate on names that have been great and really don't anticipate or understand the downside that comes like with if you're signing veteran mid-30s, early 30s guys to fill spots, like prominent spots, that's not always a good thing. And Justin Simmons is not the same Justin Simmons he was. Even Matthew Judon is not necessarily the same player he was. So while I think the Falcons undoubtedly got better, I think that people are probably overreacting a little bit to how much that's going to shift the balance of things in the NFC. But we get to see that soon enough. All right, last thing, news of note that I paid attention to. Drake May got his most extended playing time last night for the New England Patriots. The quarterback competition remains open, according to their coach, Jared Mayo. And why does this matter for the Seahawks? Well, they play the Patriots in week 2. It's looking more and more like they will face Bo Nix in the first game, I think. I hope. I want to face the rookie quarterback in the first game in Lumen Field. And then it was mostly thought that Jacoby Brissett was almost a surefire bet to start the season for the Patriots. And so the Seahawks would face him in week 2. Now they've opened the door a little bit, and May played reasonably well last night, made at least one good throw down the field. And so increasing chance that the Seahawks could see 2 rookie quarterbacks to start the season, and that would be great. let's see those rookie quarterbacks line up and try to figure out Mike Macdonald's defense. I will say I was listening to I think it's called Football 301 podcast with Nate Tice and another guy, I forget his name. And they got a question about Bo Nix, and they were just so negative about Bo Nix. They were just like, I think one of the guys, they said, like, how would you describe how the offense is going to be with Bo Nix operating Sean Payton's offense? And the guy said horizontal. That's basically just going to not go anywhere. And they were talking about how Bo Nix got all this love for his performance last week, but that he still averaged like 6 yards a throw. He still missed like very open, obvious progressions and tucked the ball and ran. His ball placement wasn't great. So I don't know. I know that the people were freaking out about Bo Nix. I welcome Bo Nix being the starter. He will begin. I will say this again. I'll say it many more times as we head into that game. He would be the first rookie quarterback getting his first start of his career in Seattle since 1989, when Billy Joe Hobart got his first start in Seattle. Yes, not as a Husky, but in the NFL. So it doesn't happen very often. He would be I think the first ever rookie quarterback to start his first game in the first week in Seattle. No one's ever done that. And good luck. I mean, bad luck, but I don't think that's going to go well. All right. So that's some of the news of the day that I wanted to share. And I'm scrolling back to get some of our new members, and there we go. Nathan B., welcome to the crew, man. So great to have you. Thank you for joining. Thanks for supporting the show. I know people are always looking for ways to join as a member, and let me drop the link to membership in the chat so that if you want an easy click to join the club, you can do it too. Here is the link to join. There it is for all of you. So appreciate you, Nathan B. Appreciate you joining and adding that link for other people that want to join as a member. Also reminding folks that if you want to gift memberships, you got to be on desktop or an Android phone to do it. And if you want to receive memberships, you've got to go to the join link, I think, and then there's 3 dots, and you want to click down, and you want to, I think gifting is the option, and you want to turn on gifting so that you can receive a free membership if somebody's generous enough to donate them. So we got another new member here, Paul Berg. I'm going to go with Berg, B-Y-R-G-E. Let me know the right pronunciation. I'll do my best to keep in mind, but awesome to have you, Paul. Thanks for joining. Thank you for the support, and welcome to the crew. All right. So scrolling down here, seeing if I missed anything else. Yeah, I don't think so. It's hard for me not to just stop and read the chat because there's such good stuff going on in there. And good morning to everybody that's wishing me a good morning back at you. Um, all right. I think the truth is, I know it says you're not ever going to get a Macintosh interview. Well, we'll see about that. I mean, this is going to be an adjustment for me because I take a lot of pride in having integrity in the analysis that I give all of you. I don't want to be so um, wary of rubbing someone the wrong way that I just sugarcoat everything. Um, I mean, I don't like listening to that kind of analysis, and I can hear it. My ears hear when someone's like being careful, and they're not being careful because they're being considerate. They're being careful because, they want to protect the chance to have an interview or, whatever. So I do have to be thoughtful about all of this. I don't want to be a jerk. These are all real people, but I also want to call it how I see it. And as far as I see it, Kenny McIntosh just hasn't been, he has not had a great camp. And he could get mad at me for saying that. He could get mad at coaches for seeing it and moving him down the depth chart, or he could do something about it. So I hope Kenny McIntosh comes out and is like, holy crap, where was this? And he's just this wonderkind out there that's just absolutely steals that spot back. That would be great. Even when I am critical of a player or a coach, they're a Seahawk. As long as they're a Seahawk, I want the best for them. I want everything to work out. I want them to be the best possible player. And so, that's my general take. But yes, I get it. So I see people welcoming Bobby. I don't know where Bobby is. Um, I'm scrolling through. What am I missing? But we'll see. I'm scrolling. I don't see Bobby. So someone's got to point me to Bobby. Maybe I missed a new member, but let me know. All right. So, yes, they're talking about detail. Detail-oriented name's Bobby. Okay, that makes more sense. Good to know. All right. So we are now a half an hour into the show. The focus of the show is meant to be an update on the 53-man roster. So let's do it. Let's get into projecting the Seahawks 53-man roster. I'm going to try to do what I did before, which had a little bit of luck working. Sometimes did not work so well, but we're going to try it. It will be what it'll be, but hopefully you guys will be able to see this here in just a second. Wait a second. Why is that? There we go. Okay. There we go. All right. So let me pull up for you a view of the roster that we can follow along together as I talk through where we are relative to where we've been. Quarterback. This one's straightforward. It hasn't changed. It's Geno Smith. It's Sam Howell. I do not think they're going to carry PJ Walker on the roster. I think he is someone who will be on the practice squad as a third quarterback unless they move him. Daniel Jeremiah was pretty high on what he saw from PJ Walker and is like, I think somebody might call about him. So we'll see. Running back. This is where there is some movement from last week. So last week, the way I had it was Ken Walker, Zach Charbonnet, George Halani, Kobe Lewis, and then Kenny McIntosh, and then Kyrie Robinson. I've reordered it a little bit because while I still personally think Kobe Lewis has shown me more than Kenny McIntosh has, I can't deny that if I'm projecting what is showing up, what the coaches seem to be preferring, McIntosh is clearly ahead of Kobe Lewis at this point. We'll see if that continues, but that's where it is right now. And so I have got it at Walker, Charbonnet, and Halani. I'm only keeping 3. I'm still only keeping 3. I was tempted to extend it to 4, but I'll tell you why in a second that I couldn't ultimately do that. And so this would be a running back room of Ken Walker, Zach Charbonnet, and George Halani. Keeping 3 running backs is a risk. There is some question. The reason I feel like they can get away with this is they could get Kobe Lewis for sure to the practice squad. And if they needed to bring him up in any given week, they essentially would have a 4-man running back room. I'm not so sure Kenny McIntosh would make it through, but let's not kid ourselves. Kenny McIntosh is a much bigger name for us than anywhere else. He was a 7th round pick last year, so I don't think it's crazy to think that he could make it through to your practice squad as well. So you could have potentially 2 running backs on your practice squad and save. I think you're more able to, 1, expose running backs and not have a chance of losing them, and 2, if you lose them, there's other backs. There just are. Did anyone know about Kobe Lewis before he signed here? Really? You can say yes, but you didn't. No one really knew. So I think there's other running backs there, and they can always bring in more guys at that position on the practice squad. All right, next, wide receiver. Wide receiver. So I have got them keeping 6 wide receivers, and that is DK Metcalf, Jackson Smith, and Jigba, Tyler Lockett, Jake Bobo as locks. Nothing's changed there. I have moved Derek Young and Laviska Shenault to high confidence for making the roster. I think these are your 6. These are your 6 receivers for the Seahawks 53-man roster. I believe that is going to mean Aesop Winston, Cody White, D. Eskridge will not make the roster. And I think of those guys, it's tough to say. I mean, Cody White's probably had the best camp as a receiver. Aesop Winston might have had the best overall camp from special teams and as a receiver. D. Eskridge has made some plays, but probably made the least plays of these 3. He does have special teams value. It would surprise me at this point if D. Eskridge makes it. But if they choose to keep 7 receivers, it also wouldn't shock me if D. Eskridge is one of those 7. And for all the folks, it's like, hey, like all the hate on D. Eskridge, which I understand. It's frustrating. He hasn't lived up to his draft status, and he's been injured a lot. I'm pretty sure if D. Eskridge got cut, he'd get picked up pretty fast. And he still has the chance to be a productive receiver for a team. So, this is a tough one. But I think it's becoming increasingly clear that Derek Young, he's almost a lock. And Laviska Shenault, for me, is just so clearly more valuable than these other players. I think he's got to be on that roster as well. Next, tight end. We have got, I still have them keeping 4 players. And the change for this week is I've got Noah Pharaoh Brown. I still have Pharaoh Brown on there because we don't know about this injury. Those are the only 2 locks. Brady Russell has clearly moved into the 3rd tight end spot. No question whatsoever. He is the 3rd tight end on this roster. So that's a change from last week. I've also moved him to high confidence that he makes the roster. And that leaves AJ Barner and Tyler Mayberry as on the bubble. I have Barner ahead of Mayberry. He has not outplayed Mayberry so far. The reason I have Barner ahead is because I think it would be harder for Barner to make it through waivers and onto the practice squad. And I think that they want to give him a chance to develop. Hopefully he shows up more in this next preseason game. This is a big preseason game for AJ Barner. He needs, and it doesn't have to be as a receiver. He needs to show up as a difference-making blocker. And he didn't do that in the first preseason game. He hasn't done that in camp. So this is a big one for AJ Barner. I do think Tyler Mayberry has clearly outplayed him so far. But I know that because it's happened every year, they can get him through the practice squad. They've done it before. I think they'll do it again if they need to. I don't see, as much as I like Jack Westover, I don't see him having a chance of making it. He has not moved up the depth chart. He has not stood out in any way that really demands it. he could be a practice squad guy, but I'm not even positive he would be that. I wish it was different for Mr. Westover, but that's what I see there. Offensive line, some changes here. I want to talk you guys through changes on the offensive line. So some of the top ones: Charles Cross, Connor Williams, Christian Haynes, George Fant, Laken Tomlinson, Anthony Bradford, and McClendon Curtis. That is seven guys that are locks. I don't think there's any question that all of those guys make the 53-man roster. Now, here's a little slip from our offensive coordinator, Ryan Grubb. I probably am reading into this too much, but I've been predicting that they would keep 10 offensive linemen. There was a quote from Ryan Grubb where he said, "I've told John Schneider, even if it means we have to hire 10 line coaches, we'll get this running game going." Why did he pick the number 10? Because he was talking about having one coach for every player on the roster. So I think, again, if you're listening, I think he just told us they're keeping 10 offensive linemen like I've been predicting. So what are the next three guys? Well, Mike Jarrell, for me, is a guy I really don't think they should expose to waivers. I think they barely played him in the first game, and I think they're trying to hide him because I think they want to give them the option of potentially sneaking him through to practice squad. I think that's a bad idea. I think even if they get him to practice squad, I think he could be signed by another team. I think this guy is a really good tackle and has the potential to grow into something like starting level. And one of the changes I've got is I've moved Stone Forsythe way up the list. I had him not making the roster. And the reason I moved him up the roster is this. Abraham Lucas, I think, is likely to start the year on PUP. If that's the case, George Fant is your starter at right tackle. And then who is your backup if something were to happen to Charles Cross? I don't think Jarrell is ready to be your backup left tackle. And so I think that they would feel more comfortable having Stone Forsythe as your backup left tackle, at least to begin the season. There is a possibility here where they say if Charles Cross were to go down, we'll move George Fant to left tackle and Mike Jarrell can step in at right tackle. But that's a pretty big jump to make, and I think they'd have to feel very confident in Jarrell for that to happen. I'm not high on Stone Forsythe. I think he is a fine, serviceable backup. I am okay with him being on the initial roster, but not okay if it means that we lose a potential young developmental starter in Mike Jarrell. I think that would be the wrong decision. And here's where it becomes interesting that John Schneider is now in charge. In past years, coaches like Pete Carroll could say, "Yeah, John, I hear you. You like this Jarrell kid, but we got to have Stone. We need the guys, the vets that we know." John Schneider can say, "Look, guys, we can't lose Jarrell. We can't lose Jarrell. You got to figure it out." And I like that in this case, at least. I think that making sure that you don't lose quality young players should always be job number one. So that's why I've got Jarrell ahead of Forsythe, but this is a little bit of a sticky wicket. It's going to be something that we're going to have to see how it unfolds over these next couple weeks, but it's a tough position. It is the cost of the Abe Lucas lingering injury. If Abe Lucas could get back and be healthy, then I think Stone Forsythe is gone. If he's not, which seems to be likely that he's not, then I think Forsythe probably makes the initial roster. And then there's the next part. Now, this is a sneaky one, folks, that people are not paying close enough attention to. Everyone's like, Nick Harris was traded. Ola Oluwatimi is clearly the backup center now. I even thought that. Well, I thought that until I reported to camp the next day and saw Raekwon O'Neal taking snaps at center. Raekwon O'Neal is a good guard. Number 79, if you saw some of the Christian Haynes highlights from Big Ray's Rewind on Wednesday, you noticed 79 making some pretty good blocks as well. This guy's vocal. He's a energizer as part of that room. I think they really like him. If they feel like he's got enough to offer at center, Olu Oluwatimi does not have guard flexibility. He is not a guard. He's not big enough. He's just not a guard. And I don't think he's done enough to secure his spot at center. So if Raekwon O'Neal, watch in these preseason games, I'm betting he's going to get reps at center. If he does well at center, then the 10th man on this roster may be Raekwon O'Neal, and Olu Oluwatimi may actually be cut. That would be the biggest surprise cut of camp if that happens. And I think that he'd make it through to the practice squad. I don't think he'd be picked up by another team. That's my guess. I might be wrong. But again, we've talked about him a lot. We know him. We like him. He was a 5th-round pick. He has played one game and then just doesn't win a roster spot in Seattle when it was wide open for him. I don't think you can assume another team's going to jump all over that. But I think they might take that risk. So these are the two battles that are really going to wage the last 2 preseason games. At tackle, backup tackle with Jarrell and Stone Forsythe, and then Olu Oluwatimi and Raekwon O'Neal. So keep an eye on that. I think the best thing for the Seahawks, honestly, if Raekwon O'Neal can show that he is a good center, like a serviceable backup center, that's the better long-term move to make because he has position flexibility. He can play both guard positions. If he can play center too, that just is a much more flexible player to have on your roster. So that's, I think, the big news. Farther down the list, not that it matters, I did move up Satoa Laumea. I thought he had a good first game. I think he's gaining. I think his chances of making the practice squad are increasing. I still think Garrett Greenfield is a very likely practice squad guy. They have been playing him a little bit at guard. He's played both tackle positions. They have started seeing what he looks like at guard. So they're checking him out there as well. All right, defensive line. Let's get to the defensive line. I have got them keeping 5. No changes here. No changes. So Leonard Williams, Byron Murphy, Jaron Reed, Jonathan Hankins. I still have Mike Morris as a high confidence, not a lock yet. I think he's pretty close to a lock, but, Miles Adams has been playing well. Just being cautious there. But, I'm a huge Mike Morris guy. You guys know that. I think he's going to make the team. I think it'll be 5, but we will see. There's a chance they go to 6 here. Miles Adams has been getting a lot of snaps. They're working closely with him. He's a big part of that room. It wouldn't shock me, but I also think he can make it to the practice squad if they want him there. I don't think Mike Morris would make it to the practice squad. Inside linebacker. I have got 5, not because I want them to keep 5 necessarily, but because that's what Mike McDonald has kept each of his 2 years as defensive coordinator in Baltimore. He kept 5 inside linebackers. Might be because they had good depth and they had good quality players, but we'll see. Tyrell Dodson, Jerome Baker, Tyrese Knight are locks. I think John Radigan probably could be high confidence at this point. He does have an injury we're finding out a little bit more about. Patrick O'Connell, I thought, had a really nice preseason game. So I think these 5 are going to make the roster, barring any trades or any other movement. I think these are your 5 on the initial 53. Getting to edge players, I have them keeping 5 here as well. And again, no changes here at the top. Uchenna Nwosu, Boye Mafe, Derek Hall, Draymond Jones are locks. Draymond Jones did, tweak something again and missed practice yesterday. I'm not too worried about it. I think they're just being really careful with the guy they plan to play a lot, and no reason to push it at this point. I still have Darrell Taylor above Nelson Caesar. Nelson Caesar, while he had a strong start to camp, has just been okay since. I think Jamie Sheriff had a really flashy first game against third-string players. If he can do that again against maybe some second-string guys, maybe he moves higher in this list. But Darrell Taylor had a couple sacks against the Titans in their joint practice. I think he's still got value. And while I still will keep an eye out for whether he's a trade candidate, my prediction as of right now is that he is the fifth of 5 edge players that make this roster. Next, cornerback. I have the Seahawks keeping 6 cornerbacks. Not really any changes here from last week. Devin Witherspoon, Reek Woolen, Trey Brown are your locks. Mike Jackson and Artie Burns, I've got as high confidence. The reason Artie Burns is pretty close to a lock. I could probably change that. If I felt like doing some movements right now, I would. I think he's pretty much a lock. But Mike Jackson is I have high confidence, but again, he's a guy that could be on the trade block, depending on if they find somebody to pick him up and what they would get in return. After those 5, I've got only one guy making it after that. I have DJ James ahead of Nehemiah Pritchett. Carlton Johnson's also had a good camp, had an interception yesterday from what I understand. Nehemiah Pritchett might be a guy that they like developmentally. He has not had a good camp. He's been beat a lot more. DJ James, I think, has shown a lot more potential as a corner than Nehemiah Pritchett, and he's played outside and in. Pritchett is exclusively an outside corner. So we'll see. One of these 3 rookies, I think, makes your final spot. I don't think they keep 7. I just don't think they have the numbers to do that. But I think they keep 6 here, and I think DJ James is the last of those 6 to make it. Safety, no changes here. I could move Kobe Bryant to lock, but I haven't done that yet. I think they keep 4. Julian Love, Rayshawn Jenkins, Kayvon Wallace, and Kobe Bryant are your 4. Ty Okada is very good, and I think as a guy that there's a chance. There is a chance. In fact, I should probably put Okada as a bubble guy because he's good enough on special teams. He's a good enough player. They may choose to keep Okada over James. It wouldn't shock me if they did that, or over one of the other position groups. But he could be a guy that sneaks in the back of the roster because those are special teams spots. And the special teams coach, if they like Okada more than they like DJ James on special teams, depending on how that goes, we'll see. I see someone asking about Marquise Blair. Thank you. I will add him to the roster. I still have Blair as the last safety. I don't think he makes this roster. Thank you, Josh Cashman, for reminding me. And I saw someone else had a question about Jarek Reed. Jarek Reed, I have him starting on IR or PUP as the case may be. That's almost a certainty. And so he can be back after 4 weeks, but I think they're just going to stash him there. So don't worry, he will still be part of the Seahawks, but he will be on PUP. So that is where we are at. I mean, then we've got Michael Dixon. Jason Myers is going to make it despite all of our best efforts. And then Chris Stoll as your punter. Let's see. That is it for your projected 53-man roster. And just like that, Eric Tams gives 5 memberships, which is amazing. Love this community, man. So generous to each other. It's so cool. Bringing more people into the show. Again, if you want to gift a membership, you got to be either on desktop or on your Android phone. And if you want to receive a membership, you got to click on join membership, click on the little dots, and then enable gifting for your account. And you might just get an immediate free membership. Consider paying it forward, giving something to somebody else, or at least extending your membership or upgrading your membership to be a club level or suite level membership. Those are great ways to not just take, but to also give. And as I've said before, I'm really appreciate the financial support is huge. This is my job now. And so anything we can do to help there is really appreciated. But, there are so many ways to support this show without spending a penny. Just watching is support. Giving it a like, clicking subscribe is support. I I told you all, I'm trying to build up the Instagram channel. So following there, I think we're only at like 500 followers. Take a moment to give a follow, leaving a 5-star rating on our Real Hawk Talk podcast is support. So there's lots of ways you can show support without necessarily just doing it financially. But obviously, really, really grateful for people that spend their hard-earned money supporting the show. Wouldn't really be possible without it. So, all right. That was my 53-man roster. I'm curious if there's anything anyone surprised by that. As of now, Josh Cashman's coming in late. Josh he's a patron and a YouTube member and works on the show. So I do have AJ Barner making the roster. Just to reiterate, I've been keeping 4 tight ends, and I have AJ Barner being the 4th of those 4 tight ends. I think Tyler Mabry has outplayed AJ Barner to this point, but I think that they can sneak him through to practice squad because they've done it every other year, and there's no reason they wouldn't be able to do it this year. I think Barner would be harder to get to practice squad, so I think he makes it, but I don't think he makes it because he's earned it yet. And I hope that over the next 2 preseason games, he leaves no doubt that he comes out. And the way to do that is special teams and blocking. He needs to just show that he can be a difference maker in those 2 ways, and his spot is assured. So it's in his control. He can make it happen. He has not yet made it happen as clearly as I would like to see. Other pieces, just as a reminder on this 53-man roster, I think the biggest changes here, Brady Russell being, high confidence player, pretty close to a lock, getting to the point where I think the receiver room is sorting itself out with Derek Young and Laviska Shenault being your last 2 receivers. George Halani solidifying his spot as the 3rd running back on this roster, maybe the last running back on this roster. And then the offensive line. I think this is going to be the most hard-fought battle, I guess, for the last few spots. Mike Jarrell, he can potentially make the team feel good enough about his level of play that they let Stone Forsythe go. I think as of now, I'd expect Forsythe and Jarrell to make it, which means they're only going to have room for one of Olu Oluwatimi and Raekwon O'Neal. If Raekwon O'Neal can show his strength as a center, then I think there's a pretty decent chance that he makes the roster and Olu does not. That would be something that nobody else, I guarantee you no one else has talked about that. You heard it here first if that happens, and the justification for why it would happen, and the reason the coaches are looking at this. Now, Connor Williams will hopefully probably start practicing next week. Maybe Raekwon O'Neal doesn't get any more center snaps after that. Maybe they're fine with just having Olu and Jalen Sundell take snaps. If they still have Raekwon O'Neal taking snaps at center when Connor Williams hits the practice field, then I think it's not good news for Olu. If Raekwon just goes back to being exclusively a guard, then maybe it was just something that they were testing out, and I wouldn't look as deeply into it. If he plays well in the game, I think that's going to make a difference. So, I think Raekwon O'Neal is going to get some snaps at center. We'll see how that goes, and that could be a big, big thing. We've got a question from Detail about could they stash someone on PUP just to keep them? Only if they started camp on PUP. So the only options for that right now are Abe Lucas and Jarek Reed. Those are your only 2 PUP options. And I think both of them will start on PUP. Garth Knight, super chat. Garth always giving super chats. Love that. Appreciate it. Does Evan subscribe to the Jason Myers even odd year theory, even being good years? I don't think Evan subscribes to any theory other than absolute trash takes on Jason Myers. I mean, I think Evan would extend Jason Myers before he'd extend Geno Smith. So that's all you need to know about Evan. But I appreciate the super chat, Garth. Joey Walker, hey man, he's gifted 5 Hawk Blogger memberships. That's awesome, Joey. He's been a great supporter of the show, and now bringing in other folks, man. And that's so cool to see. And here we go. Here's one of the people getting a new membership. Jig, welcome to the crew. So glad to have you here. And I'm sure there's other. There we go. John, he gets a membership. Thank you, John, for joining. There is 2 a.m. Relatables. Love that name. Thank you, Joey, for that. There's DC28 thanking Eric for the membership. So cool. So cool. And again, the way that you actually earn a free membership is if it's all dependent. YouTube checks to see how often you're watching the show, how often you're liking, subscribing, how many hours you've watched of it, all that kind of stuff. The people that are most engaged get the free memberships first. And I think that's actually a pretty cool way to do it. And really, really appreciate everybody who's been helping the show grow. I think we're pushing 500 members or so. I don't know. It's really been humbling to see all the growth, but I'm rambling. Let me let you guys go. A lot that we went through today on this Blue Friday. Tomorrow, we will have Seahawks Saturday with Jeff Simmons, working out exact time. So keep an eye on the channel for exactly when that will be. It'll be just Jeff and I. We're just going to chill out, talk Seahawks, head into this next preseason game, talk NFL. Then tomorrow afternoon, 4 p.m. Pacific time, watch party. So be there. I mean, I might have something to be able to gift you guys at the watch party. I'm working on getting it set in time. I'm going to check my email and see if anything came through on that. Not yet, but I'll let you know. But the only way you'll know is if you go to the watch party. And we'll do our best to sync up our TVs. We'll watch the game together. Some people are like, hey, the starters aren't playing. That's not fun. You're telling me you don't want to see Byron Murphy play? Telling me that you don't want to see Christian Haynes play and Raekwon O'Neal play and Mike Jarrell and Tyrese Knight. Like, there's a lot of these guys I want to see Patrick O'Connell. I thought he had a good game. So, yeah, I want to see all the backups play. I'm looking forward to it. We're going to have fun at the watch party. Tune in for that. We had thousands of people watching together last week. It was a lot of fun. Now we've got multiple moderators to help me moderate the chat and make sure we don't have anyone inserting political ads or other crap while I'm doing play-by-play. But looking forward to getting together and hanging with you all tomorrow. So 2 shows tomorrow. Be sure to be there for that. And until then, I'm Brian Nemhauser. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at HawkBlogger. This has been episode 145 straight days of fresh Seahawks content coming to you. I hope you enjoyed it. I'll see y'all later. Take care.